One of the very first episodes I did for this channel was about Van Morrison. I've been a huge fan of his for a long time. Astral Weeks is one of my favorite albums. I've seen him in concert maybe 4 or 5 times. But then when COVID came around, he made some remarks that were kind of a turnoff for me. And so I stopped listening to him for quite a while. Really haven't gotten back into him that much lately. And then in that episode, I addressed the question of can we separate the art from the artist's personal life and the artist's actions and the artist's statements. And I hadn't planned to return to that issue at all. But then the Oscars happened last Sunday, and that brings us to today's episode. This is the Kazdoy Closet. I'm Kazdoy. That's my closet full of all the stuff that I love. And today, one of our guests on Oscar night led me to revisit the topic of separating the art from the artists. Here's what happened. So we had about 3 people over to watch the Oscars with us. And this all started with the appearance of the actor Joe Alwyn, because then one of our guests, Emily, not her real name, stood up very animated and said, "F you, Joe Alwyn." I'm cleaning this up for YouTube's sake. She said the full word, of course, and I had no idea what she was talking about. All I knew about Joe Alwyn was that he was in The Brutalist, which was my favorite movie of 2024. And if he walked in the room right now, I wouldn't even know who he was. So the issue for Emily, who, keep in mind, is 24 years old, was that he apparently did not treat Taylor Swift well. They were boyfriend and girlfriend at one point. Emily's a big Swiftie, and I don't think he abused her or anything like that. But I guess maybe he was mean to her or something. I don't know what it is. Or maybe it's filtered through the lens of being a Taylor Swift fan. So that's what kind of was the first incident there. Then later on, Quentin Tarantino was one of the presenters, and Emily again stood up. "He's a POS!" But she said the full word. I'm just abbreviating it here. And I said, "Well, what's wrong with Quentin Tarantino? I mean, I'm a big fan. I have almost all his films in my collection." Well, she said, well, he was associated with Harvey Weinstein for a long time. Granted, I think we can all agree Harvey Weinstein was not a good guy, to put it mildly, but a lot of people were associated with him, male and female. So you're going to have to throw all of them in there for that, if you're going to put it that way. But then she also mentioned how Tarantino treated Uma Thurman on certain films. I have no idea what that's all about. I know she made 3 films with them. In fact, I just bought Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2. So that was the Tarantino remarks. Like, okay, well, I didn't know anything about that at all. And then we're watching the Oscars some more, and the In Memoriam segment comes up, and Shelley Duvall's picture comes on the screen, and Emily makes a negative remark about The Shining. So I said, wait a minute. Kubrick too, there's a problem with him. He's probably my favorite director, as I've said before many times here. What did Kubrick do? And then Emily brings up how Kubrick ruined Shelley Duvall's life during The Shining. The way he treated her kind of drove her crazy, ruined her life, ruined her career because of that treatment, and she ended up in a mental institution at the end of her life. I don't know what to think about that. I really don't. But by the way, Emily is a family member. So if you're thinking, she's practically a daughter to me. So if you're thinking, you should get rid of this person then, why are you putting up with this? That's not going to happen. But the day after the Oscars, I started thinking again about this whole issue. And, there's some that really stick out, some examples. For example, Woody Allen. I was a big fan of Woody Allen for many years. I mean, I saw Take the Money and Run when it first came out in the theater. I went to the theater several times to see it again. It was like a revelation to me. I had no idea a film could be that funny and you could do that in a film. And I was a fan of his for a long time. Slipped a little bit. I think his films have slipped a little bit lately, at least the last few that I've seen. I don't own any of his films. I think that there was a special edition of certain of his films. I'd probably go for it. But his scandal, of course, was about preying on young women, and of course his marriage to Soon Yi, who was adopted by Mia Farrow. He was never married to Mia Farrow, of course, and he was never charged with anything. I'm not trying to excuse him. I'm just saying this is what it is. I did read his book. I read all his books, his compilation of articles and pieces when I was younger, but I read his most recent book called Apropos of Nothing, and he does address this whole incident, and he's very persuasive, showing his side, but of course he's a writer, so he's going to be persuasive. And then I was trying to keep an open mind, so I also watched the documentary Allen versus Farrow, and I thought some of that was a little bit slanted because they show him looking at, I think it was Dylan Farrow, when she was a young girl, and it's in slow motion, and he's looking at her as she's playing, and there's spooky music in the background. I thought, this is really manipulative. You could put anybody in there and do the slow-mo with the music, and they're all going to look like a pervert or something. So, I don't know. One problem Woody Allen has, of course, is you look back at some of his films, like Manhattan especially comes to mind, and there's themes of older guys with younger women in there, and so it gets kind of creepy that way. Another obvious example, Roman Polanski. I'm a big fan of his films. He fled to the U.S. amid allegations of rape. He was never arrested. He was never charged, but he wanted to avoid the whole thing, so he left. And Chinatown's one of my favorite films. So, Polanski, I think at this point, all the charges have dropped. They've come to terms with all this. I'm not trying to excuse anybody of this, okay? So don't get me wrong. I'm just saying this is what's happening. To a lesser extent, Alfred Hitchcock. I'm very familiar with Hitchcock's films. And so why do I bring him up? There's controversy about how he treated Tippi Hedren during the filming of The Bird. So she was maybe a little abused by just her treatment. But the bird scene, the big bird scene, you probably know what I'm talking about. The birds are attacking her. It was a little cruel, I guess. But she did make at least one more film with them, maybe two, I'm not sure. And then I started thinking, you know what? It's not just abuse of male directors towards females, because if you think about John Ford, he's pretty notorious for how he treated his big star, John Wayne. He used to make fun of how he acted, made fun of how he walked. He used to tell him, "You'd be nothing without me," all this stuff. And maybe it was kind of like a father-son rivalry thing going on. I'm not sure, but John Ford was definitely the aggressor in that situation. And then most recently, I was watching a Sam Peckinpah film, and there's an incident where one of the actors says, Peckinpah slapped this male actor, around hard several times until he can get a believable moment out of him. So that was going on there too. Then I started thinking about painters, like in a museum a while back, where all these masterpieces are hanging on the wall, of course, these paintings. And there's a painting of a young woman in the nude. I forgot who the artist was, but famous artist. And the audio tour is telling us that, as he became an older man, he painted this young girl naked like 100 times or something. I'm thinking, come on, dude. Obviously you're getting off on this. You're kind of exploiting this young girl who's probably in your employment. She's probably a maid or something. And that I thought was a little weird too. So where does this all leave me? Well, do I agree with the actions of some of these directors? Of course not. Do I have sympathy for those people who were wronged or treated unfairly? Absolutely. But just because I appreciate a person's artistic work doesn't mean that I accept or approve of their transgressions. I'm enjoying their work, separate from what they did. Just don't talk to me about Mel Gibson, that's all. So feel free to leave a comment or suggestion down below. Any other examples you can think of, or what are your thoughts on this? Have certain directors' activities soured your taste for their films and you no longer watch them or not? Leave a thumbs up. Don't leave a thumbs down. Subscribe would be great. Share this with your friends and neighbors. Subscribing is free. Also free is we're on Letterboxd. under the Kazdoy Closet. There's a link in the notes down below. Most recently, we left a review for only one film, The Passenger, from 2013. So that's free too. What's not free is my ebook is available now. It is True Tales from the Teacher Trenches, the ups and downs from 32 years of teaching. You can get that on Amazon.com. It's for your Kindle, or if you don't have a Kindle, you can use the free Kindle app on the device of your choice. So I didn't expect to really make this episode and bring this issue up again, but this is what happened. So thank you so much for watching. Hope you like this one. See you next time.